For the armed citizen, our draw from concealment is incredibly important, maybe the most important skill. And then we need to get accurate and efficient hits. So you don't get to choose speed or accuracy, you need both. Okay? And then transitions to multiple targets. After that, I think the primary hand only may be the most important next step in training because several contextual reasons.
The new Mantis X10 firearms performance system has all the goodness of the original, plus holster draw analysis and recoil analysis. It's a fantastic upgrade and I recommend it highly.
Hey guys, Brian Hill with the Complete Combatant, Active Self-Protection Extra. This is your Mantis Dry Fire Monday. And this will be dry fire. As you can see, I'm standing in a cabin in the North Georgia mountains. We're on holiday, but I wanted to get a video out to you guys so you can get some practice, and hopefully this will help you guys improve a little bit. This came about because somebody asked me a good question. I did the hands up draw video and they said, what will that look like with one hand only? So let's go over that. A primary hand only draw. Now let's think about this in order and critical thinking. For the armed citizen, our draw from concealment is incredibly important, maybe the most important skill. And then we need to get accurate and efficient hits. So you don't get to choose speed or accuracy, you need both. Okay? And then transitions to multiple targets. After that, I think the primary hand only may be the most important next step in training because several contextual reasons. One that's always offered in the tactical world is you've injured this hand. I think this comes from a lot of simunition work because people get shot in the hand. We see that in real life also. So maybe that's what's happened. But there are other reasons why we may not have this hand available. One of the most important is that I'm using a flashlight. I've got to identify my target. I can't use my weapon-mounted light to do that. And this light is available in my hand. Now I can see the sights, I can see the target, so it's going to be busy while I'm drawing the gun. That would be an important reason. I also may have to move somebody out of the way or control somebody. I may have a loved one with me. Somebody may be in front of me, so I'll have to draw one-handed. That's an important thing also. Okay. Of course, there is the injury and where my hand goes if it was injured. And another good reason is I'm grappling. All right, I'm incredibly close to the other person. I've got to control their closest hand to my gun, and I'm going to do that by getting an overhook or an underhook and get control so I can get to the gun hand by itself. So there, just off the top of our mind, we got 4 different reasons. Now let's talk about the injury. Some people say your hand will hang at your side. As a mixed martial arts coach, seeing thousands of hand and elbow injuries and shoulder injuries, you don't know. If I get injured in the hand and it really hurts, I've seen fighters clutch it in like this. It depends on where the elbows hurt and how it's hurt, whether it can be bent or whether it'll be straight. And the shoulder is a really iffy one. It depends on what type of shoulder injury. It may not be very comfortable. I broke my collarbone, and I got to tell you, I had to hang my hand off of me because it hurt so bad for letting the weight hang off the bone. So nobody can really tell you where your hand's going to go in an injury. We should practice, all right? So I always put my hand on my collar because it puts it in a safe position. And I found my greatest concern as a trainer, especially with one-handed draw, is the support hand tends to get down range. Whether we're doing entangled fighting, whether we're trying to control or move something, or we're just not sure where to place it, it gets down range. And sometimes, even on a two-handed draw, it gets out of order. People that really like to pull their shirt all the way up will draw the gun, and then their hand will come in front of the muzzle. So all that is incredibly important safety risks that you have to be aware of. So let's make sure we put the hand someplace safe. So for me today, it's going to go here, or I could be working with a flashlight. If it was at my side and I can hook my pocket, I'll do that. I do not put it behind me, and I don't let it swing around because it affects things. Now let's talk about your feet. Okay, in fighting, your feet are going to be moving, but a lot of people like to step forward on the primary hand only. All right, the value of that, I don't find to be excessive. I don't find there's a big value in that. I do better with my normal square fighting stance, and then I put my arm in position with my shoulder. I use the big muscles of the pecs and the lats and the back to squeeze that arm in, and then I get vertical stringing instead of diagonal stringing. When I stand like this, the gun tends to string diagonally for me. So if you're looking at me right here and I have a diagonal string, most of those shots are a miss. And if I turn it vertically, all those shots are a hit. So I'd rather have vertical with it, okay? And then I know how to really make a good stance in that position. So got a SIRT pistol here, okay? This does not work. It can't fire bullets, so we're going to be working with that today. So for the dot especially, this is an iron sight gun, but if I had a dot gun, I really want to get it up under the eye and drive it straight out. I found it helps me find the dot sooner with that. Okay, I'm going to offer you guys 3 different ways to do this. All 3 work. and I've seen people make them work really well. But there's a difference between the three, and it's always time. How much time are you willing to spend? Okay, I had a good conversation with somebody last week, and they felt like 0.75 wasn't too much time to spend on the draw. Now let me tell you, if you spend 0.75, it's almost 4 shots coming at you. Okay, I think time is critically important in a fight. I want my draw to be very probable. I'd like it to be in a 90% range, but I also want it to be as quick and efficient as possible. So let me give you 3 choices on this. Okay, we'll start with the slowest first. Okay, and this is the one where people tuck the gun behind the butt and then go and get the gun and drive it straight out. Now there's a really good place for this one, and I think it's in tangled fighting. When we're going to retention and I'm getting control and I want to make sure I can get that gun, that works really well. There is a huge time component to it, which is what? About 3/4 of a second, if not a full second, to tuck it under. And sometimes the tuck doesn't happen behind the gut of the butt, the butt of the gun. All right, so you're trading a lot of time, and hopefully it will be more probable. The next one, and I've seen some people make this really work well. John Holshin does this. He does a fantastic job from the side position where he draws straight up, drives straight back down to the gun, and gets it back out. Okay. The only thing that I've seen in force on force is it's somewhat fragile right here because occasionally the thumb gets caught. Okay, which is a problem with all of them. But if you pull too high, it's easy for the shirt to race you back down and beat it to the gun and catch on your thumb. It's a great technique. I think it works really well. The one that I've settled on is the circle, which is a combination of both techniques. I'm not circling behind the butt of the gun. I'm circling the shirt until it folds in half, and then I'm indexing with the thumb and driving it here. Saw Mike Seeklander do it first, so I'm going to give him attribution. I'm sure he didn't invent it, but that's the first person I saw do it like this. So the circle looks like this. I always go north-south because I want the shirt to come up. I don't want it to go around tighter. So north-south. And then as I come up, I circle here, thumb comes back inside, I get my claw grip because I'm running appendix, and then boom, the gun comes straight out. I drive it straight out under the eye so that I can see. Now, if you were on the side, you could do the same thing. You could circle, go and get the gun, and pull it straight out. These work the same because, guys, even for me on appendix is about 1 o'clock, all right? And then your strong side should be 3 o'clock. That would be the best place for you. So you're not going to find much difference between straight up and down, tuck the butt behind, and circle back to it. It's going to be the same process with a closed garment. If you have an open garment, that's going to be a whole different process where you sweep out of the way, so you don't really need further instruction on that. Okay, so what's it cost? All right. On my good days in speed and efficiency mode, I have a 0.8 to a 0.9 draw consistently. All right, that's in the 90% probability range, which is where I like to live, and I get that through a lot of practice. So now I'm going to only be using one hand. This hand has to come up, has to circle, and it has to come back. At a minimum, that's going to cost me 1/4 of a second. Okay, and it makes it a little more complex. So I'm going to give myself, instead of a 0.9, I'm going to give myself a 1-2 to do it with my preferred method. Okay, now you try it with your methods and see how much they range. If I do all 3 methods and range it, I have a lot more experience with the circle than I do with the other 2. So it's always going to favor that one a little bit. But you practice and find the one that works for you. So let's see what a one-handed draw looks like in this position. So I'm going to put the hand out of the way. I'm going to create a good stance. Okay. Okay, a little slow. Missed the grip just a little bit at the beginning. All right, let's try that again. All right, so I'm in the right place. Okay, I'm still a bit slow, so this is a good practice area. I always want to be a 1/10 behind or 2/10 behind it, so it pushes me to go. Let's see if we can get a little quicker on that. So that was a good draw. Okay, and that's how I'm going to practice it. Okay, so I set up a par timer, I get the beep going, and that gives me something to work against. It also gives me some sort of measurement. What I find with a lot of people is they create a preference, that becomes their opinion. They ask other people that have the same opinion, and then it becomes the way that they do things. Guys, if you want to get good at anything, you got to ask people that disagree with you. You've got to research other information. You got to be open to change, and you got to measure it yourself, or otherwise you simply can't improve. That's a very important process of that. And falsifying your hypothesis is part of the scientific method. We have to see what would be wrong. Okay? Now, what's wrong with the circle one for me? And I'll tell you right now, if I don't get a good grip on the shirt, I won't clear the gun enough. So I've got to really practice making sure that I get to the belly button here, that I get a good north-south, and then I get it back in. One-handed draws are more fragile. I don't have a 90% rate of success. I really try to keep it at that, but they can be a bit more fragile. Another way for you to practice is to get your Manus out, do the holster draw analysis, and do it one-handed. So you'll be able to mark the times down and see how significantly different it takes you to get to the gun, because you're going to find that your grip is at a half to 3/4 of a second before you get it out. Now this part's not that slow. It's still a very similar thing. And then the aiming. I would go to the range and practice it in live fire. I can't do that today, but here's what I would suggest doing. Practice to one shot only. Get a good feel. Make sure this hand is safe the whole time. After that, fire 2 and 3 shots in a row and see what your split times in between them is. You should have good vertical stringing, and you shouldn't have a huge difference in splits. A lot of times people let the gun recoil and they don't build structure behind it. Build that structure, make it come back down, keep it in a 0.3, 0.4 splits, maybe 0.5s at the top, but one-handed you should be able to do that. All right? And then once you get good at that, put it all together, practice the different drawing techniques with the draw, and see which one works for you, and start working it. All right, it's going to take you about 3 months to really develop it, and time is not really the essential. If you do 100 reps or so a day, you're going to see a tremendous improvement over a 3-month period if you do it 3 or 4 times a week. All right, that's what I got for you guys. I hope that helps you out. It was a fun video to make, and I appreciate it. Make sure that you go to Active Self-Protection, watch videos, look for people shooting one-handed, see what kind of obstacles, use some modeling there, and see what real-life scenarios look like. You'll be surprised at a lot of reasons that people shoot one-handed is they simply can't let go of what's in the left hand. All right, that's going to help you tremendously. Subscribe to Active Self-Protection Extra. Hit the like button. All right, use your Manus. This is a great place for it. You can practice your one-handed shots, get some score on your primary hand only, and then you can practice drawing with one hand only. Make a big difference with it. All right, Brian Hill with A Complete Combatant. And as always, measure, refine, and perform.